Hello, it's Leslie here again. Today I'll do a more general video about learning languages, some odd tips that aren't worth their own video. So these are things that I have learned over the years. Okay, when I'm starting a language, I will choose a shorter course first, a beginner course, like a 1 hour course. And I find that's very easy to commit to. 1 hour, it's easily done. And then I work up to, a 2 hour one, and then a 4 hour one, and then maybe an 8 hour one. So I found that you're less likely to quit if you do the 1 hour one first. If you just jump straight into the 8 hour one, it's a bigger commitment. And I recommend just doing the 1 hour course first. You're less likely to quit, and it's more positive reinforcement that you're getting things done when you finish it. What I do is, you might be wondering, do I go from beginner and then intermediate and then advanced, and then how do I do my revision? Do I start at the beginner again, or do I go to intermediate, or what do I do? What I tend to do is this. Yes, I try and stay on the beginner levels and don't jump up too fast too soon. And then later on I will do revision. I'll go back down the level and study several levels at the same time. So what I've found that is, if it's becoming too boring, then it's probably too easy, and then you need to move up a level. Like, you need to find something that's more difficult. You need to find something where someone speaks faster, or it's more complicated. If it's too boring, you need to get to a more difficult level. If it's not fun, it might be because you're too difficult. So if it feels too hard, then I think you're on a level that's too difficult. It's got to be fun. It's got to be you've got to feel like you're progressing. And if it's too hard, and you're not having fun, it means it's probably too hard. Like, that's how to know if it's too hard or too easy. If it's sort of a balance between being too bored or not being fun. So that's what I do. Every day when I'm studying, say for example, like, I'll give you an example. Last night I watched a show for 2 hours in Russian, and it was fine. And because I'm more intermediate, advanced stage, and I didn't feel like it was too much for me. I'm actually learning Finnish at the moment. So with Finnish, I watch a few 5-minute videos here and there. After about half an hour, I can't deal with it anymore. It's too much for me. So what I try and do is, when my brain's full for that day, I stop. Because I think if you're trying to remember something permanently, you have a very short not attention span, but I think when you're trying to remember it for the rest of your life, you won't be able to be, your brain won't be able to accept 8 hours of new information every day. It's just too much. It will forget. You'll forget 90% of it by tomorrow anyway. So what I do is, I try and do really active, attentive study. So that means, between 10, 20, 30 minutes of really attentive study. When I think that my mind's starting to wander, or look, I'm just not remembering these new words, then I stop, and then I leave that till the next day. Or what I do is I carry on to the next language, which after Finnish it would be Italian, which I'm more intermediate level at, and then I'll do, some Italian, and then after that I'll do a language that I'm more advanced in. So what I'm saying to you is, try and note when your brain is full for the day, and just stop. That's enough. Like, if it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. If it's, sometimes you might be able to do 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and then you think, okay. Now, most of my learning is actually revision. So most of it is actually revision, and I might only try and learn 5 or 10 words per day at this point in time. For me, I think 5 or 10 words a day. You know, I'm nowhere near, say, 50 words a day. It's too much. So I only have a certain amount of words that I learn per day. And what I try and do is I do try and get to a stage where I'm learning the language in that language. Because then, say for example, Finnish, I'm learning to try and listen in Finnish. For example, then what I'm getting is, if I listen to say 10 minutes of Finnish, it's coming into my brain at a much higher rate than if I'm just staring at a page of words one at a time. You know, it's a lot slower. So if I'm listening to an intermediate lesson, say on YouTube, I find that if I can understand some of it, that's the approach I'm doing at the moment with Finnish anyway. I'm not studying the grammar. I was told not to do that. So what I know, say it's being spoken, I don't know, it's probably like 100 words a minute. So if you're listening to 5 or 10 minutes, if you're listening to say 10 minutes of 100 words a minute, you know, that's a lot of words that are being thrown back at you every day. And that I found has helped me, especially with Finnish. I didn't do it that way with Russian. Okay, I'm struggling with this video at the moment. So there's one final thing I mentioned for this video, and that is to find the appropriate level. Sometimes it is very hard to find the appropriate level in the intermediate stages because it can seem like everyone is speaking too fast and you don't understand everything. So that's why I suggest trying and finding as many language learning materials as possible, and then find one that's the right rate of speed for you. There'll be one, I'm sure, that you will find easier to understand than others, or someone will be speaking slightly slow or more slowly or clearer than everyone else, and you'll understand them better than everyone else. Go with them until you're bored with them. What I've done as well in the past is, as a type of revision, for example, YouTube, I went with, as I mentioned before, Veronica's One World Italiano. I did the first level at 1 times speed on YouTube, then did the second level at 1 times, A2 that is, and then B1. Then I went through and started A1 again, but listened to it at 1.25 times speed, and went through them like that. I listened to them all at 1 1/4 speed, then 1 1/2 speed. So that's a way to sort of train your brain to get a faster, you know, to comprehend things that are being spoken faster. Another trick that I tell you is, you know, if things are too fast for you, say, you know, Russians, you don't understand anything because they're speaking too fast, then use the term slow, like use a search term on Google or YouTube, slow Russian. Or another term that you could use is conversational Russian or beginner. Like, just use terms that will slow it down for you, that you'll be able to, you know what I mean? You've got to be able to find your own slow videos. So don't be afraid to search for slow Italian or slow. I know that sounds very obvious that I've said it to you, but it's not that obvious in the beginning. You know, it might not be that obvious to you if it's your first language, but it becomes obvious after two or three, trust me. So do that. Yeah, find the appropriate level and stick with it, and then speed it up if you have to. I find speeding things up works better than slowing things down, because sometimes slowing fast people down is not quite the same as speeding things. It just doesn't sound right. Slowing them down, it doesn't sound right. So that's the way I do it sometimes, not all the time. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say this time. Thanks for watching. Thank you. Bye.
What I tend to do is start on a language. If I'm starting a new language, I'll do a 1 hour course, like an hour, you know, listening course, whatever that might be. 1 hour course.